My husband hit me during an argument. I left, documented everything, and filed a restraining order. I never thought I'd be writing something like this. My husband and I had been married for 3 years. Together for 5. We argued sometimes, sure, but nothing explosive. He'd never raised his voice at me like that before. He'd never scared me before. Until last week. The argument itself was stupid, money stress, long work hours, the usual stuff couples fight about. He kept pacing, getting louder, saying I wasn't listening. I remember telling him to calm down and give me space. That's when it happened. He hit me. It wasn't a dramatic movie scene. No slow motion. No warning. Just a sharp, shocking moment where my brain couldn't catch up to what my body felt. I immediately tasted blood. The room went quiet, except for the ringing in my ears and the sound of my own heartbeat. He froze immediately, started apologizing, crying, saying he didn't mean it, that he'd never do it again. I didn't say anything. I just stood there numb. But then something else kicked in, something older than this relationship. My mother's past. My mom was abused as a child by her parents. They did unspeakable and ungodly things to her and her sisters. When she turned 18, she married my father, who promised her safety and unknowingly walked straight into another abusive home. She spent years trapped before finally divorcing him. She left when I was 4 and raised me alone. I remember when I was old enough to start dating, she made one thing crystal clear. If someone hits you even once, you leave. Not tomorrow. Not after apologies. You leave. Because it never gets better. She warned me about the cycle. The tears. The gifts. The love bombing. The promises to get therapy. The this isn't who I am. She told me abuse doesn't start with daily beatings. It starts with one moment where they learn they can hurt you and still keep you. At that point, I had already known about her past. Not all of it because at that age, she said I was still too young to know the details, but enough to know why I hadn't met my grandma or grandpa. Enough to know why my dad wasn't there. Standing there in my apartment, staring at the man who just hit me, I heard my mother's voice like she was in the room. So when the shock wore off, I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I didn't ask why. I went to the bedroom and started packing. That's when the panic set in for him. He tried blocking the doorway. When I pushed through, he dropped to his knees. Swore it would never happen again. Told me I was overreacting, that couples make mistakes, that I was throwing everything away over one moment. He even said I provoked him. The gaslighting was breathtaking. I didn't say anything, because I knew that nothing I said would get through to him. Nothing I said would make him understand. He would still try to justify, to set blame. I left that night and drove straight to my mother's. She saw my face, saw the split lip, the massive bruise starting to form on my face, and I could tell her blood was boiling. She said that I could stay as long as I want. She then grabbed her phone and took a picture of my face, emailed it to me labeling it day 1. Every day after for the next week, we took another photo. Same angle. Same lighting. It felt methodical, almost clinical, like I was grounding myself in reality so I couldn't gaslight myself or downplay it later. Over the next few days, the bruise darkened. Purple. Blue. Yellow creeping in at the edges. On day 7, after we took the picture, I asked my mom to tell me everything. Everything about her parents' abuse. My father's abuse. Like I needed a reminder of what might happen to me if there was ever a lingering part that wanted to go back to my husband. She told me everything. Everything that I didn't already know. I'm not going to give the details on here, but after I heard them, I felt sick. I cried. My mother cried, and we hugged and held on to each other for a bit. Since I left my husband, the texts haven't stopped. Apologies. Promises to change. Offers to go to counseling. Flowers left with mutual friends. Even anger, telling me I ruined his life by not forgiving him. But here's the thing, my mother survived, so I wouldn't have to see if it gets better. I loved him. I still care about him in a way. But I love myself more than the version of me that would stay and slowly disappear. I filed for divorce and a restraining order 2 weeks after the incident. My lawyer looked at my photos and text messages from my husband and then smiled like she immediately struck gold. He was served at work in front of his boss. I didn't plan for him to be served at work, but I'm not gonna lie, I didn't hate it. Update. It's been a few months, and leaving was the best decision I ever made. I wasn't sure if I'd ever post an update, but a lot has happened, and I've gotten messages from people asking if I'm okay. I am. More than okay, actually. The restraining order was granted immediately. Walking into that courtroom was one of the hardest things I've ever done. He showed up looking calm, almost offended, like he was the victim. When the judge asked me to explain why I was afraid, my hands shook, but I told the truth. I showed the photos. Day 1 through day 7. I explained how the bruise changed, how I documented it because I knew I'd eventually be tempted to minimize what happened. The judge didn't hesitate. Hearing the order read out loud felt surreal. Relief and grief hit at the same time. Relief that there was a legal boundary. Grief because my marriage was ending. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. I got half of our savings, half of his retirement, and the house. After that, things got quieter. The text stopped. Mutual friends took sides. Some surprised me by believing him. Others quietly reached out to say they were proud of me but didn't want to get involved. I learned very quickly who valued comfort over truth. Therapy has helped more than I expected. Not because I blame myself, I don't, but because leaving abuse still leaves a mark. There's a weird guilt that comes with choosing yourself when someone else is begging you not to. My therapist called it conditioned empathy. That hit hard. Update. It's been a year since I walked out with a bag in my hands and my heart in pieces. I'm still in therapy. That hasn't changed. What has changed is how I carry myself. Therapy helped me unpack not just what he did, but why I was so determined never to repeat my mother's story. It taught me that strength isn't just leaving, it's staying gone. A few months after everything settled, I took up boxing. I even started dating again. Nothing serious, just wanted to make sure I still could. Then, a few months ago, I heard through mutual acquaintances that he was dating someone new. They were together for about 3 months. From what I was told, he painted himself as the victim. Said his crazy ex ruined his life. That he was misunderstood. That he'd been divorced and was finally free. But here's the part that matters. The woman he was dating found out the truth about his divorce. From someone else, not from him. She learned about the restraining order. About why it existed. About what actually happened. She left him shortly after. A few weeks after she left him, I received a long email. Pages long. He apologized for everything. Took responsibility, at least in words. Said he was in therapy. Said he was trying to be better. Said he finally understood the damage he caused. Then he asked if we could talk. If we could maybe someday try again. I didn't reply. I forwarded the email to my attorney. My attorney handled the response exactly as it should have been handled, a formal cease and desist letter reminding him that there is still an active restraining order and that any further contact would have legal consequences. That was it. No closure conversation. No emotional back and forth. No reopening doors that were closed for a reason. A year ago, I left because my mother taught me that the first hit is the warning. Today, I stay gone because I know my worth. I'm stronger. I'm calmer. I trust myself. I don't flinch at raised voices. I don't negotiate boundaries. I don't mistake apologies for change.